Hi, this is Steve Wraith, and thanks for listening to the Steve Wraith Interviews. This interview was recorded during 2020's lockdown period and was part of a special series. Hey,
hello.
How are you, son?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good.
Good stuff, mate. You're looking well.
I'm not feeling well.
Did you have a good session last night after the Longsands get together?
We did. We had a Zoom after show party, which was probably worse than some of the after show parties that we've had in real life over the year. So yeah.
Quality, mate. Well, I've watched Trevor's gig back, and it was very good, mate. I mean, basically, just to introduce you to the audience who will be watching today, you're Ian Barnes from the Longsands, a band which I've proudly managed. Albums galore and singles galore. So we'll talk about that as we go on. But first and foremost, you're living down in Manchester now, just on the outskirts. So how are you coping with COVID, Ian, and the lockdown?
To be honest, with my job, I work from home a lot anyway, so I go out and visit schools and stuff. So I'm not doing that bit, but I'm not office based. So, you know, like when the schools kind of go on their 6 weeks holiday and that, you can't go and visit them. So it's just a bit like that for me, really. We're quite lucky here. We've got a decent sized garden, and you know, I'm still able to work, luckily. So I'm just grateful, really, because there's a lot of other people who aren't so lucky. So you've just got to count, really. I mean, don't get us wrong. We've nearly killed each other a few times and all the rest of it, but but aren't there? So I think, you know, it doesn't look like we're going to be back to any kind of what we would call normality anytime soon, to be honest. So what has came out of it is a bit of time to do things that you wouldn't normally have to do, and probably why we're having this chat, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one thing that's come out of it. It's, you know, communication, use of other forms of media and medium to get in touch with people as well, you know, and like you said, you know, the Longsands have adapted to that as well. I mean, obviously the band split up a while ago now. It feels like a decade ago, really, but it isn't. But obviously you and the guys have got your heads together and produced some good stuff and for you know, worthwhile causes as well. We'll touch on that a bit later. Let's do like a little biog of the band. A lot of people have heard the name The Longsands, and they'll have heard some of the music, which is obviously widely available on iTunes and Spotify, and you know, you can catch some of the videos that were done, of course, on YouTube as well. But where did the band start? You know, how did the Longsands start?
It probably goes back a bit further than that, to a band called Lotus that we were in high school. So me, Trev, Gaz, first bass player Gaz, and a couple of other people, including Stan, who sort of dipped in and out of that band. We were all like mates at school. We've all you know we're into similar kind of music and whatnot. And yeah, started as you do, you know, jamming in the music block, and you know, doing various gigs in and around area stuff, and like my quite a few of my other friends and my brother was always in bands and stuff. So music's just been around me since I was a kid, really. All my parents really encouraged us to just go for it, really, which was nice. Then kind of all went off to university, and then got that out of the way. And when we got back together, we just decided, like, that band Lotus was just really you know, get a bunch of your mates down to and just have a good laugh. There was no like there was no direction of travel. Like, it was very hard, but to be honest, it's some of the greatest memories of my life, to be honest, because we were more than just that, and there's a bit of beauty in well, as Longsands, we obviously decided to quit our jobs and stuff, and, like, you know, go for it. Yeah, so we'd all kind of known each other for years anyway. And then over the years, obviously we had various members leave and join and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of where it all came about, really. High school.
Obviously, you've written a lot of the songs. I mean, is that a process that you just do it on the spur of the moment? Do you sit down and think, right, I've got to write something, or is it just something that comes naturally?
Well, I think about this all the time. It's a really, really weird one. I tend to work well under pressure. That's always been the case. You leave me homework till the last minute, me dissertation at uni till the last week, that kind of thing, and just, you know, up in the library or whatever and bust it out. Oasis, mate, whoever asked that question, definitely. And yeah, so, but then there is this, funnily enough, you mentioned Oasis. I watched an interview the other week on YouTube with Noel Gallagher where he describes it as he goes fishing and he believes that, like, Don't Look Back has always been out there, like, in the sky, and he's the one who caught it, kind of thing. Like, so the songs are already there and you kind of catch them. And I like that analogy because you can really, really try and write stuff, and then one day you just pick up a guitar. And like Little Britain took, what, 12 minutes to write all the verses. And sometimes I think your best songs are the ones that come quick. But also that doesn't mean to say that, you know, if I remember when we went into the second album, because we were like back working and stuff, we didn't have as much time to dedicate to it. There was about 3 of those songs that didn't really have lyrics. I had chorus and stuff, and I remember sitting upstairs in Fred, like, actually just writing the lyrics, knowing that in about, you know, an hour we were gonna like thing. So yeah, I think a bit of both. You can sort of switch yourself on that way, but I think the best stuff comes when you're least expecting it, and certainly been the case in the last sort of month with me. I've found myself time in the house and whatnot, and just by picking up the guitar to have a mess about on, all of a sudden these creative juices, and there's not like a switch you can put them on and off, and I guess that's why people get like writer's block and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, but I'm really excited about some of the stuff we're doing. It's a little bit different, and yeah, it's all good.
So I suppose that's a big question, and you're doing lots of stuff online at the minute. The band split up. I mean, is there a plan going forward for the Longsands? Obviously, I've seen a few familiar faces. Stu Dawson, I think's just joined with. There's a few other big Longsands fans, and a few of my mates who you won't know who've listened to the music, just didn't ever get a chance to come to the gig. So, you know, is there a plan going forward, or are you just taking as it comes?
So, we're definitely going to do something. What that actually looks like is I can tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to be a reunion because I hate them. I think they're a con and a scam, and you end up just being like a kind of a version of yourself. Mm-hmm. So we've had a few chats on Zoom, and I was very. I was very clear that I didn't want to just do a gig to make money or what. I'd like to think certainly after last night's gig, it was, you know, fantastic. He's raised over £2,500, had 10,000 watches. It's just absolutely brilliant, you know. So the appetite's clearly there, and that's nice. But for me, it's got to be about the creative process. Like my favorite thing about being in a band, getting my songs from my bedroom into some format, like, you know, you get to hear everyone joining in on them, and to me that's really, really important. So if you know, if we are going to do something, it has to be with new music. That's not to say we won't play the old music, don't get us wrong. We're going to do like, yeah, and you know, just play the old stuff. I didn't want at all. And I think the plan is that we're in a very different place than what we were when we were you know, kind of doing it full time, and that was almost what careers and stuff like that. Trev and I both got you know work outside of the band now. We're both doing really well. So actually, this is probably more like back in those Lotus days that I was talking about. Actually, what we want to do is just spend the time and at the minute we can't do gigs and stuff anyway, but just spend the time writing and recording and maybe stuff, and we'll see where that leads. What I can say is we will be doing a live gig when we're allowed, but as soon as possible, and there'll be some more information about that. But I think for the first time ever, this time, I think that we'll probably release the music ahead of us playing it live, if that makes sense. Like we always used to gig record an album. And so I think this time it'll probably be different. I think that the time will be spent writing and possibly dropping like demo versions of stuff out. That's all we can really do now as well, given the current state of things, you know. And it'd be nice to get some new stuff out there pretty quickly for everybody. So yeah, hopefully that's the plan. And the plan. No further than that. That's why we used to employ people like you, Steve, to keep us on the straight and narrow. So
Tom Dixon asks, why did you name the band the Longsands?
Well, obviously the beach in because Crampton not is pretty. So I think as the story goes, Trev lost his uncle around the time that we formed the band, and I believe his ashes were scattered at the Longsands. So the story we used to tell is obviously that, you know, heartstrings and all that, was that was why we named it. I actually think the truth of we'd already decided on that, and then that happened, and it was kind of a good thing to say. So I can't. Maybe Trev knows more than me. You'll have to ask him. But whichever way around that happened, it's a nice nod to that. Whether it's coincidence or that was the reason, I honestly can't remember. But yeah, I mean, picking band names is not easy, man. So that just seemed to, I don't know, strike a chord. And then we spent the rest of our lives telling people that we weren't called the Longsands as well. So yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few equivalents in write-ups, etc., but that's definitely one of the popular ones. Paul Oxley says, Lennon or McCartney, Ian?
Who?
Lennon or McCartney?
Oh, Lennon for me. You know, Paul McCartney. My favourite Beatles songs are McCartney. Yesterday, I love Eleanor Rigby. I mean, they were just brilliant to get together. Where they were like yin and yang, that kind of balance between the two. But I think obviously Lennon's probably stood the test of time. Died when he was like in his heyday, and I'm sick of Paul McCartney being reeled out at bloody the Olympics or Glastonbury or wherever. Like, oh, not again. But yeah, for me, certainly in the stuff for the Beatles, like Lennon was a bit more edgy, and I preferred his voice. Yeah, can probably relate to it for a bit more.
John Ball says, have you any current band that you would like to support on a tour if you got to that stage again?
I mean, you never. The hard ones, like my favorite gigs are the ones where headliners. So you know, you want to support act. Honestly, it's a pain in the arse. Like you get about 5 minutes to sound. You know, your bass player's on top of the because there's no space on the stage. You know, but us coming through doing things like Ocean Colour Scene and From the Jam, like they were bands we were really into, so it was an absolute privilege to play with them. But my favorite gigs were the ones where, you know, we were the arseholes taking 3 hours to check, and the support bands had to get their 5 minutes. You know, fondest memories are, you know, if a great band turned around to us and said, "Oh, of course we would." But I think this time we're going to pick and choose our probably a little bit more selfishly, because we don't need to like kind of haul ourselves around to every event to try and promote stuff and things like that. So I think we're going to pick and choose wisely, do the things. The main thing for us going forward, we've all agreed, is we have to enjoy it. You know what I mean? And when you've got financial and things like that, you kind of take everything you can, and it'll be nice to not have to worry about that. It'll make for better music and a happy fan.
Yeah. Tom Dixon says, what was your favourite Longsands song?
Oh, they're pretty much all my baby. So that's like your favourite child.
Is there a favourite one then?
Sorry?
Is there a favourite one then? Or is it too difficult?
Not really. I mean, I've definitely got ones that I don't like. But I think there's ones that you play live. Like Little Britain's a great one to play live because it gets everyone going. Worlds Collide, similar. So there's the ones you like playing live because you get kind of. I've always said Let Love Rain On, probably my Live Forever, and that's a really I was really pleased with that, like when I'd recorded it. But I mean, listening, it's like Little Britain and a couple of the other ones. Sometimes I listen to those lyrics and they feel a little bit dated now. Do you know? We're definitely, like, as much as that's great to us and all the rest of it. I'm really excited about to doing some new stuff as well, and hopefully something like some stuff that might surprise people. I think it's important we move forward from where otherwise it won't be better than it was, and I think that's really important to us as well.
Yeah. Wadey says, how did it feel when you played Bladen Races at St James's Park?
Not as good as it felt by the end of the game, there had been 5-1. But yeah, I mean, just bizarre that day, wasn't it? I mean, with Steve. So, I mean, you know, the Sky Sports interviews, the build up to it all, walking down the tunnel, getting wrong off the caretaker for standing on the grass, that kind of stuff. But before the game, and when we went down and did the sound check, I think it was a few days before. It was just such a, you know, that's one of them days that just, I mean, anyone who's a Newcastle fan will know that, you know, we haven't had a lot to cheer about over the last 15 years, to be honest, but maybe even more. But you know what once you're hooked, and you away from it, warts and all, innit? And you know, to get the chance to, I mean, I've never been great at football, so I was never going to get the chance to walk down that tunnel any other way. But yeah, I mean, what a day! And then the result, and you know, even just the pictures and stuff that we've got from kids and all the rest of it. It's one of them days that's up there with, I don't know, like all of the great moments in your life, really. So yeah,
100%.
amazing.
100%. It was great. Wadey also asks, but he inboxed us this one, who's the best songwriter, Trevor or Ian?
Me.
Of course. Buramag says, what guitars are you...
Two. I have to say, though, the two he has done are very good. So, like, you know, his finger a bit more.
Are you on your Wi-Fi or on your 4G? Just your connection keeps cutting out with your answers sometimes. Is it? Yeah. Are you on internet? Are you on your Wi-Fi?
Bye.
Knock your Wi-Fi off. It works better on 4G if you can. If you've got good 4G, just it's slightly cutting out every time.
Right. I don't think we've got 4G signal yet, though, Steve.
Have you not? Okay. Well, we'll go with it. Nobody's complained, but I can just every now and then it's dropping out. So, let's get back to Buramag's question. He says, "What kind of guitars do you play?" He says, "I think he's after the make. What is there a particular make that you play?"
Sure, if you want. So this is my favourite guitar in the whole world. My dad bought me this before he died. This is a McElroy. Can you see?
Yeah.
That's featured on many a Longsands tune, and that was his kind of lost my dad to cancer back in 2013, and we kind of knew it was coming, and me and him had a boat together where we went around all these guitar makers and stuff like that, and yeah, it's another very special day. So that guitar is probably the most special. This one here is actually strung left-handed at the minute because my little Dylan's learning to play. But this was my first ever electric guitar, so all of the Lotus stuff was written on that. This one's probably the most expensive guitar, or worth the most. This is a 1974 Les Paul Gold Top. and actually used to be my spare guitar when we played in the band. And if we go through this room, I'll probably get in trouble here because everybody's nobody likes to be live on the internet, do they? So,
especially Trevor's kids
Dylan,
after last
say hi to Dylan, everybody, doing loads of schoolwork
Hi,
there on
Dylan.
the Xbox. So, and then there's the Rick. That's the one I played probably the most in the band. And then we've got some other things kicking about. This was a 12-string that featured on the odd record here and there, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's lots of them. And again, they're a bit like your children as well. They've all got a different story, you know.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just shutting the door.
It's all right. It's okay. Well, I'm sure Burrow Mag, he says that's fantastic. He really enjoyed that. I don't think I expected a tour of Ian Barnes's guitars, like, but that's superb.
To be honest, there's tons of them up in the northeast, and other people have borrowed them. Yeah, I need to probably do an audit of my guitars at some point.
Tom Dixon's asking, how often do you practice?
I don't know, like not as much as I'd like to. I don't know. I don't really practice, if I'm honest. I did when I was a kid, but like learning the ropes. But I never really wanted to be Jimi Hendrix because I could play all the chords. The next thing I wanted to do, and I always think that I'm not really the guitarist in the band. I can play piano, I can sing a bit, I can do that. I'm a bit of a jack of all when it comes to music. And I'm certainly not particularly. My role for me is always to bring the the songwriter, and I think I'm the songwriter. That's pretty much what I'm best at. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, I don't really. It's not like I get up in the morning and put an hour in on the guitar, you know, as and when and play, and I'll probably never get any better. To be honest, I'm not going to sit there rewind and tracks and trying to shred or anything like that. Like, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Else.
The two albums, obviously, Meet Me in Spanish City and Us and Them, both available, as I say, as downloads on iTunes. Which is your favourite album and why?
Ooh, I don't know. I think Meet Me in Spanish City. I think that was when we were like, I don't know how to really explain it, a proper band doing it, and we spent a lot of time on that record, and it was the back catalogue of the soundtrack sort of years. Do you know what I mean? Us and Them though, really liked the way that we recorded. We just kind of, because we weren't full time with the band, we didn't have as much time, and we basically had to record that in a week. And I think you can really hear we basically just put it all down live, like we play, and I think you can really hear the energy in it. So I think I prefer Us and Them, but I think just like everything else in the song, probably Meet Me in Spanish City, but one's going to be Mercury Prize, tell you.
What's going to be different about that? And is it different because of the way that you've started, you know, getting back together? Obviously, you're using technology to, you know, to communicate with the rest of the band, and, you know, you're writing it. I mean, obviously, I've heard a sample of one of the songs already, and it has got a different vibe. But is that down to technology? Is it down to not seeing each other as much? Is it down to being out of the game for a short amount of time and influences changing? What's it down to?
Probably all of the above, really, and the probably does sound a bit more technical, simply because I don't have a drum. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
you know, I've been using click tracks and dance loops and that just to get like a bit of time. But I've also been like approaching the writing process from a bit of a different. I'd normally just start, as I say, pick up my guitar and see what happens, but you often end up in the same place. That. So I have been starting with percussion like that, and actually listening to a rhythm and then that, and it kind of gets you to a different destination, because I think it is important. Whilst we obviously are wrong, we're not going to come out with anything completely like, you know, work or something. We're going to sound like long, but hopefully kind of moving on. And I keep saying to the lab, make our OK Computer. If anyone's a Radiohead fan, they'll know what I mean by that. Like, that was by far their most well, maybe not their most experimental, but I think it really struck the balance between like weirdness and, you know, like where they kind of came from. And it was an absolute work of now, don't get us wrong, I'm not saying we're going to sound like Radiohead. Don't worry, you won't have to kill yourselves or anything listening to it. But yeah, I'd like to think that we taken it to a new place for us. And over the years, I've always, first and foremost, we have to write music for us. Like we try and write for an audience, because you know, there's plenty of people do, like there's Ed Sheerans in this world being told, you know, oh, you should this person will sell another billion records. But for me, it's always been playing music that we like and we enjoy. And then if other people like it, like, do you know what I mean? And those who don't have to get them. Very much my opinion. If you've got that honesty in your music, writing what you care about, then hopefully that'll have like a sincerity that other people can kind of relate to. And for me, that's fundamental that I do. It's why we do adverts and stuff, you know, or write songs for, you know, boy bands or whatever.
John Ball says, do you prefer festival gigs or indoor venues?
I think indoor venues. I like to think they're a camper these days, don't they? And everyone loves a trip to go outdoors, but to be honest, it's grim. Especially, I mean, our experience of festivals as well has been it's been hampered with crisis over the years. None less than we were talking on the I don't know if you remember the Friends of Mine festival, Steve.
Oh, very clearly.
Someone stole Trevor's pants, and he only had one. And this pair of jeans that got stolen also had the keys to the van in, which also had in, and we were due to go on stage in about 3 hours. So somehow we managed to get back into it and what have you. But yeah, I think indoor gigs, the sound, the atmosphere is better. I think if you get a festival in England, sunny day, got to be like playing when the sun goes down. Let's be honest, it usually rains. So yeah, I'll take a small sort of 300-500, everyone packed in venue. That I think the best for you and the best for the people watching as well. So you're not, you know, too far away. I like small gigs.
Yeah, musical influences. Then who inspired you as a youngster?
So without a doubt, again, the Oasis player question. I probably wouldn't play the guitar or be in a band if it wasn't for Oasis. Although music, as I say, has been around us since I was a kid. I played piano from the age of 6, 7. My brother was in band, but he more like 80s stuff and that kind of thing, and it never really connected with me. Listen to it. My dad's record collection was just a load of best of. So the Beatles, Red and Blue albums were in there, and he had Neil and Bowie and things like that. But that was kind of his. I'd listen to that stuff, obviously, but that was music. And I grew up in that generation, which was right on the rise of like bands like Honor and Oasis and the Stone Roses and that kind of thing. And Oasis will be, and you know, I just I think the thing is with Oasis, it wasn't like you know, if you looked at an artist like Bowie or the Rolling Stones or whatever, they looked like they were from another planet, and you know. We're like a bunch of kids dressed like this. Probably, you know, your head kicked in if you dressed like David Bowie. Do you know what I mean? And Oasis came along, and it seemed like more like you looked at them and you kind of went, I could, like, you know. I think it was more like they weren't the band. It was more like it was one big thing. I don't know. Like how I felt anyway. You felt part of it. And yeah, and that's why I picked up a guitar. And from them as well, because you start to listen to their influences, I then stumbled across like the Jam, the Who, Slade, the Sex Pistols, all of those different bands, which they were like the kind of starting point. And I kind of went back at the Doors, like look point, but without a doubt, they were the biggest influence on me. And I think it's kind of cool not to like them after they had their kind of first peak, but I'm quite proud to say that they're my favourite band. So yeah.
John Ball asks, what was your favourite Oasis track then?
Slide Away.
Yeah. Okay, same as Alan McGee. Danielle says, what's the best gig you've been to?
What gigs where I've watched other bands?
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Probably Murrayfield Stadium, Oasis, Happy Mondays, and Doves were on birthday, and it was a jolly good day out. Well, a jolly weekend as well. Yes, it was. Yeah, I don't know what happening gig or whatever, but it was experience.
Tom Dixon asks, was it hard getting a band together? Is the process of putting a band together hard? Because obviously there's so many things to take into consideration. Obviously it helps if you go to school with each other, but is it generally hard, do you think?
Sometimes that hinders as well, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We were all mates really before we were like musicians together. So it's always been. But I think if you're into music and you go to gigs and stuff, you surround yourself with like-minded people who probably play instruments and stuff. And I think in those first stages, sometimes out to do in terms of, you know, I'm sure people who are put back will get frustrated when people let them down and all that kind of thing. So it's really hard to strike a balance between like skill and musicianship and like and getting on with each other. And I think like the camaraderie kind of element of it's just as important in terms of like the vibe you create. So I guess, you know, there's no rule to that, but I think if for anyone who's trying to form a band or get into a band, probably my advice would just be surround yourself with get to as many gigs as you can. Once you can get back, surround yourself with people, and you know, sit up all night chatting shit and see if you get on with them first. That would be my recommendation.
Tom also asks, were you nervous when you first played live in the band?
Yeah, I'm more nervous last Saturday night than I've ever been for any gig, because it's an alien environment. Sort of sitting there, and the link doesn't work. Like, you know, what if the camera falls over? Like, I wasn't bothered about performing songs, but I was more worried that, like, you know, technology was going to let us down or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you've always got a bit of nerves. Whether it's like if it's the first gig, it's the gig. When it's the biggest gig you've done, it's the biggest. Or the first time you play on national radio to millions of people, like, you know, we're nervous then. But I also I quite like that nerves. I think the nerves keep you, you know, it means you want to do well. And I think it's only natural. Like, everyone can relate to that, whether it's an exam, a driving test, you know, Steve, your big events with some of the people you've done. I'm sure you get the butterflies a little bit, but I think the important thing is people, you just don't let it consume you. You control it. Actually, it's a good thing that you out stuff. Yeah. So that the advice I'll give to my kids anyway. It's perfectly natural to feel nervous and a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Danielle asks the question that Dan Daver would normally ask on our interview sessions, and that is the tea party question. You've got a tea party to go to or a dinner party, name the 3 people, and they can be celebrities, they can be relatives, they can be dead or alive, who you would take with you to the tea party.
All right. So yeah, people who you want to. you could have prepped. So.
Better when we're doing prep because we get a natural answer. I mean, for example, Keith Gillespie wanted to take. He wanted to go himself with Gaza and George Best. So you can see what kind of party that was going to be. We've had some pretty obscure ones as well. So
going to go Liam Gallagher because he'd be a right who as well. I reckon getting them room would be a right laugh. And I kind of want to take Tony Blair because I've got that guy.
Right. So that's Liam Gallagher, Tony Blair, and who was the other one?
Paul Gascoigne.
Paul Gascoigne, right? Okay, that's not a bad combination. So you've got 2 people who cause trouble and 1 person who could talk you out of it. So that's a pretty good balance. And having been on a few nights out with you, Ian, I know for a fact that you probably end up more with Liam and Paul than Tony Blair. By the way,
maybe. Although I'm a refined, distinguished these days, Steve.
Okay, mate. Okay. Johnny Ball says, I take it you're probably more of a Noel fan than a Liam fan due to his songwriting. Is he right?
No, not really. I think growing up, that was the position I wanted to play, like the songwriter and all the rest of it. But I think there's a honesty about Liam Gallagher. Like, I mean, he just does. There's. I don't think like got a mask or anything. He's just who he is, isn't he? So yeah. To be honest, I think he's like party question. Like I wouldn't want Noel sat there talking about himself all night. Like he would just get in my way of me talking about my.
Of course, it's one of those questions which is guaranteed to cause a heated debate if there's a Longsands night out, as is the question, Peter Beardsley or Paul Gascoigne.
Well, you know my thoughts on this. For England, you'd have to say Gaza, but I'm not going to say Gaza's overrated. I'm going to say Beardsley's underrated. When I was growing up as a Newcastle fan in the glory days, I was pretty spoilt. So when I was 11, 12, great Keegan years, and I had Beardsley in number 8 on the back. And I think when you think he was about 36, 37 when he was at that really high standard, and Lionel Messi and his goals and his shimmers, man, he's nicked all of that off Beardsley. I'm telling you. The style, the shimmy, I think he's a hugely underrated, and should be alongside all the England greats. Personally, I think he's absolutely amazing. For me,
yeah. Nigel Adams is saying hi to both of us. Nigel has now reached a famous status. He's been mentioned in Smiley's book, and you might remember Nigel was the man who got in on a guest list at the From the Jam gig and then was escorted out by security because Russ Hastings, the lead singer, took offence to him asking for his plectrum during the gig, which is still one of my favourite stories. Like,
well, I guess that's sounds about right, doesn't it? Like kick him out because he wanted my plectrum.
Yeah, classic. You had to be there, but it was an absolute belter. Tom Dixon says, can you name one of your favourite drummers? Have you got a favourite drummer? Is that something that you would really think of?
As Rennie out of the Stone Roses plays the drums like a guitar. So him and Keith Moon are of almost chaos, but it's really...
Yeah. Tom Dixon says, what will you be drinking when the takeover is done? Again, this is one of our regular questions. Obviously, the hashtag is cans on social media. Is there a special tipple that you'll be drinking once Amanda Staveley gets her hands on the club?
Well, I just don't want to jinx anything because we've been down these paths many times before. So until the ink's dry on the... I don't believe anything that the press or Mike Ashley's Fed press or whatever it might be says. But I think it'll be a happy day. Obviously, there's who's buying it and all the rest of it, but we seem happy to sell guns to them. So it's one of them. But yeah, probably some form of lager, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe a brown ale.
Bit of brown ale, yeah. Everybody seems to be saying brown ale. Nobody bloody drinks it normally. Future KGP says pick four former Newcastle players that you would want in a band with you. Well, I can think of one.
Yeah,
Nobby
Solano.
Solano.
From it. I don't know. I have no idea of the musical ability of any of these people. So I think you would just have to go for who'd be the best. So I think it would have to be Tino.
Yeah.
Solano, Tino, because we've had some good nights. I mean, he's gone missing a few times on our watch, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You find him in Benwell at a party with Ez once.
Yeah.
That'd be a good laugh. It's got to be Gaza, hasn't it? He'd be a good laugh. And that leaves one more. I'm going to go Shearer because I reckon he'd come in handy. But Bother kicked off.
Right. Well, I would have gone Shearer because Shearer would sell tickets. Everybody wants tickets to see Alan Shearer, and he doesn't do that many gigs. So definitely Alan Shearer. I'd have him and Joey Barton. Maybe he's doing a bit of vocals each, because I've seen Joey Barton at an end of season party knock out a few songs. He did Deacon Blue Dignity in 2010 up at the Diamond, and he was absolutely superb. Like, so, yeah, I think that's a pretty good guess. I think Gaza's got form, of course. The other one I would have in, he's an outsider, is Chris Waddle, because of course he's been in the charts with Glenn Hoddle and Waddle, Diamond Lights, that had a chart success. So there's a couple there who've got form.
That's probably why I didn't pick him. So because Shearer and Barton, that's going to kick off, innit? Barton's going to wind him up.
Yeah. True, very true. Danielle says, "What's your favourite Newcastle strip, Ian?"
The blue one that we is the for the season that I think we wore it against Leicester like last when we beat them 7-1 before we got promoted. It was the first time I seen it, and I just blushed. And I never owned these, and I bought the black and white one. But yeah, I like that. And I was looking online the other day, Aiden's birthday, and with all being locked down, I was thinking get him, and I was going to get him that kit, but in sort of boys' sides, I think they started as small mans. Anyway, some useless information if you're looking for well researched on it, but that
yeah. Borough Mag's questions there on the screen. What's your dream band? Singer, drummer, bass, and lead.
I think this is a bit like football, you know. I don't believe players necessarily gels together, right? If you know what I mean. So, but going for like that kind of vibe, I think I would have Rennie on drums, as I said earlier. My favourite guitarist is John Squire from the Rose. So I'd have him there. I'm not sure about bass. It doesn't particularly matter. Singer, got to be between Freddie and Liam, and it. I mean, I'm because of his voice, but no one can take away from Freddie as a. So yeah, but in all honesty, I would like to see the original lineup of Oasis again live in a little venue, as we were saying. I would take Tony McCarroll, Quigsy, Bonehead, Nolan Liam, and just because I never saw that lineup, I would take that every day over some sort of dream team. We've all seen how sometimes work.
Yeah.
Uh,
Craig's asking me if I know, do the players still go to the Diamond? Last time I was at the place was when Given and Carr played for us. Yeah, they still do, mate. I mean, obviously there's still a few people live up there. I'm not sure it's as prevalent, but I know a lot of the old players still get in there as well. It's still a popular place. So we're going to use the last 5 or 6 minutes really just to talk a little bit about what you've been doing. You know, for the charity. There's your gig last week. That you did on Facebook, which people can still get, of course, on the Longsands official Facebook page. You were raising money for a charity down in Manchester, and as a local businessman stepped in to help. So can you explain what that's all about and how much you raised and how people can still support it?
Check out Rob and his Angels on Facebook. You can get to it via my Facebook account or just type it in. You'll find it because he's been getting a lot of publicity. So basically, Rob is mine. I met through. I do like an open mic night on a Thursday. Well, normally up in the local town where I live, called the King's Arms, and I met Rob through there. And his normal business is he owns properties in Florida, villas and things like that. Well, obviously, like he's not doing much of that at the minute. So just started when the lockdown happened, making a few cakes and sandwiches for people around his estate, you know, the street, that kind of thing, who couldn't get out. Within about 3 or 4 weeks, he found himself trying to push out about 300 to 400 a day. He was getting health and safety certification. I think he's got over 50 chefs working for him, and in total all plugging together, and they offer this service completely free. So I know there's been a lot of like, you know, charity donations to the NHS and things like that. But,
Sorry, mate.
for me, I wanted to do some. Sorry.
Got you
Is
back.
that all right?
Yeah.
Just keeps
Got
ringing
you
in.
Yeah. Oh, you keep. Oh, we seem to have technical difficulties here.
One just keeps ringing Jenny's phone constantly.
Oh, right. That's what. All right.
Hanging up. So yeah, I wanted to do something I knew would like hit. So yeah, he's basically now pushing out around 1,300 meals a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've lost you, Ian. Yeah, sadly we seem to have lost Ian there, which is a pity because he was just getting into the routine about and just getting into talking us about the charity there. If you go onto the Longsands page on Facebook, you will be able to find it. Easy enough to find. I think it was Rob's Angels that he mentioned. Get across there and support the charity. But great to have him. Sorry about the sound. It wasn't great from Ian today, but we did get the gist of what he was talking about. Tomorrow night, I'm back to football again. Matty Patterson has agreed to join us. He'll be talking about Newcastle United and also be talking about the non-league. Obviously, the non-league season came to an end rather abruptly, and all the season was avoided. Of course, Matty is still heavily involved in the non-league, and it'd be good to have him on. So that's 6 o'clock tomorrow night. We're also going to have a couple of people returning to the show. So Tuesday night, I'll have Steve Howie on just to talk about Newcastle United, and then of course we will have Lee Clark on Saturday. I'll book in the rest as we go along the week. But tomorrow night, 6 till 7. Tomorrow night we've got Matty Patterson on, and then Steve Howie on Tuesday. Don't worry, Ian, mate. It got cut off, so I'm not 100% sure what happened. I'll try and get you back on for 2 minutes if you want to plug the charity just before we go. So bear with us, and I should be able to get you back if you just accept it. Hi, mate. You okay?
Oh, sorry about that, man.
Don't worry, mate. Don't worry. If you just want to quickly plug the charity, mate, before we get cut off, that would be great. So Rob's Angels, where they can find out about them and just what they do. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, so as I say, they now deliver about 1,300 meals a day for free to the Northwest. And he's fundraising basically to try and keep reaching people. I did my little gig last Saturday, raised a few £100 for him. But in total, we're in the region of about £13,000. But it's all getting spent on these people, and there's more and more of them every. So yeah, like I say, I just wanted to do something that was a bit more on my doorstep. I think you kind of you see the impact of what you do quicker. And as I say, there's plenty of people obviously raising for the more obvious causes, let's call them, which is great as well. But it's these little community groups that I actually found that, like, I'm sure there's a one in every town, in every street, in every neighborhood, and if they don't get things, they're nimble and they can really help people instantly. So that's why we did that. So yeah, Rob and his Angels. Page. I can send you the link over if you want to.
Yeah. Please do. Yeah, I'll get that shared for you. And just last thing, really, just to plug the band. I mean, obviously, there's going to be developments. Where can people find out about the Longsands and keep up to date on developments with regards to the band moving forward?
So the first protocol is probably our Facebook page. Go on and like it or follow it. We're trying to move into this new modern era. As you can see, I'm on my wife's Insta page here because I don't have it. I can't even handle Facebook and Twitter, to be honest. So I didn't really want to add another one. But I think Trev's on about setting up an Insta account for the band, and I think we've got a Twitter account there. So you'll find the old website's down because we haven't paid the bill, but we might try and point. But really, our Facebook page is probably the most active place for the moment. And obviously, we start to get some stuff recorded and get some stuff out there. We'll point you in the right direction. But once things are ready for release, all the obvious places: Spotify, iTunes, yada yada yada.
Good stuff, mate. Been great to chat to you, mate. Stay safe over the lockdown, and looking forward to catching up with you in due course, mate. But take care and stay safe.
Yeah, you too, Steve. It'll be good to catch up with you when they let well properly. So I'll let you know if I'm back in the northeast, mate.
Good stuff, mate. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great stuff. Good to have you on. Top lads. And as I said, the Longsands, just Google them. Get yourself onto YouTube. Some absolute belters on there. And get yourself onto iTunes as well. Just download the albums. The two albums, Us and Them. That's the second one. That one's an absolute classic. Which is every song is a great song. Meet Me in Spanish City. Support the local music industry as well. And they also did that one. The Bladen Races for the Bobby Robson Foundation, which used to get played at St James's Park before Derek Lambias fell out with me. But you can read about that, of course, in Every Boy's Dream, which comes out at the end of May. And I'm busy editing that at the moment. Anyway, take care. I'm going to get off 6 till 7 tomorrow. I'll be back with Matty Patterson. Thanks for watching. Take care. Good night. God bless. I wish you well.